everyone.
Hey guys.
We're back. We are here and talk about whole grains this time versus refined flours and different grains you can use. We're also going to talk about the Instapot and batch cooking some grains so that you can use them in different recipes throughout the week.
So today we're going to talk about whole grains. We are going to use spelt as one of the whole grains, and basically the difference between a whole grain and a refined grain. The whole grain still has all three parts of the grain. So it has the bran, which is the outer covering or the edible kernel, and that has all the antioxidants, B vitamins, and fiber, so that part's super important. It has the germ, which is the part that sprouts up a new plant, and it also has the endosperm, which is the largest portion of the grain, and that part contains carbs, protein, and a small amount of antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. When they refine a grain,
When they refine the grains, they take out the bran and the germ. So what that leaves you with is they take about a fourth of the protein away from what you can get out of a whole grain. People look at whole grains as just carbohydrates, but they can also be an amazing source of a plant-based protein. But when they're refined, they take away a lot of that. There's a lot of different grains we can eat that most of the time we don't look at. So today we're going to be talking about spelt, but there's also barley, there's bulgur, quinoa, there's regular rice,
whole grain
corn.
whole oats.
So there's lots of ways you can use all these whole grains, and a lot of times we go to the same ones like we do with vegetables and proteins because we're comfortable with them. So we're going to try to teach you a little bit different way to use a grain today. We're going to talk about spelt, which is one not many people use very often, and we're going to be batch cooking it in the Instapot today.
So spelt is a wheat. So what we're going to do is super easy. Super easy. You're just going to weigh out your dry grain. So I already have a bag of spelt open, so I'm just going to use this one. And you're just going to weigh out your dry grain. So we want about a cup, and that's going to be 212 grams. So we're just going to weigh that out. Okay, a little bit too much there. Okay, so 212 grams, and we're going to put it right in our Instapot. And then the next thing you would do is just add 2 cups of water. Now you can look online. There's a million different charts as to how to cook whole grains in your Instapot, and there's a lot of different water to grain ratios. And I would say it's really going to be your personal preferences how you want the grain cooked. If you want it to have a little bit more of a bite, you're going to want to use less water. If you want it to be more cooked all the way through without a bite, you're going to want to use more water. So online there's some charts that say you could do a 1-to-3 ratio for spelt, which is 1 cup of the grain and 3 cups of the water. I did a 1-to-2 ratio just because I like mine to have a little bit more crunch to it. But it's really personal preference, and you can kind of play around with the water ratio a little bit. You do not need to soak any of your grains overnight. You do not need to do that. That's not necessary unless you really want it mushy, almost like an oatmeal. Then you might want to do that.
Do you need to rinse the grains first?
Probably a good idea would be to rinse your grains off before you put in your Instapot, which I did not do, but that would probably be a good plan.
Yes.
To rinse that off to make sure you get all the gunk and debris off of there. But yeah, you do not need to soak unless you really, that's a personal preference also.
Okay, perfect.
So then after your water goes in, again, I use 2 cups. You can use up to 3 cups. You can find your own personal preference for the texture. You lock your lid, put on your seal, and then if you have a multi-grain button on your Instapot, you would want to use that. And spelt, since it's a pretty hearty grain, is going to cook for about 25 to 30 minutes. I cook mine for 30. Again, personal preference depending on how you like it. I cook mine for 30. So you're going to push the multi-grain button. And then hers is set to 40, so she's going to push the down button to 30. And then, do you have to push anything else for yours?
Yeah, so then you're going to push the multi-grain button again. That's going to start the cooking process. Now it says 30, it's not going to start counting down right away. It has to wait till that pressure rises to full pressure. You're going to see the pin rise up. So first you're going to see it just says on. This does not start the cooking time. So 30 minutes is actually after the pressure is all the way up to temp. So you're going to wait, you're going to see it. Once it's up to temp, then it'll start counting down on the clock, the 30 minutes. If you don't have a multi-grain button, that's okay. There's still a way you can do it with your Instapot or a pressure cooker. So right here, you're going to see less, normal, or more pressure. So if you don't have a multi-grain button, you're going to do manual. You're going to make sure it's on normal, and then you'll just set it to the 30 minutes. It'll still do the exact same thing. So if you have a pressure cooker that's not Instapot brand, or you don't have that button, because different models of Instapots have different buttons on them, go manual, normal pressure, 30 minutes. And like I said, you have to be patient because first that pressure has to come up.
And then especially with grains, also with beans, you need to let the steam release naturally. That means you cannot do the quick release method. It needs to release naturally for at least 30 minutes. I've let mine release over, 45 minutes to an hour and just let it sit in there and really soak in. That, again, is going to change the texture of your grains. But just make sure you don't do the quick release. Let them release naturally for 30 minutes.
That is a really great point, because if you've ever cooked anything that does have liquid in it and you try to do that release too early, actually a lot of liquid will come spewing out of here. It's a big mess, and it can be kind of dangerous because it's so hot. So anytime you have something with a lot of liquid in that, you got to make sure that you do exactly what the instructions say, and make sure that natural release takes the time to do it, because otherwise you have quite a bit of fluid that comes out of that valve because it's not closed anymore.
And you have a mess in your kitchen.
So
that's not fun.
all right, so we're going to let this cook and we're going to move on. We already did some ahead of time, so we're going to show you different ways to use spelt now that we made a big batch of it.
Yeah. So we went ahead and cooked it, and then what I did after I cooked it is I drained out the excess water. There's going to be a little excess water, especially if you use that 3-to-1 ratio that we talked about. You're going to have a little bit extra water, so just drain it out, and then you're going to measure out your cooked spelt on your scale, so that you know exactly how much that you have that's cooked. And then typically what I do when I batch cook a grain is I'll take half of it and I'll use it for one recipe, and then I'll take half of it and I'll use it for another recipe, because we only cooked 1 cup. So 288 grams cooked is what I came up with for half of the amount of spelts that we cooked. And so I'm going to take half of that and use it in a breakfast cereal. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make that. The other half I used last week in my sloppy joe recipe.
Yes.
So it's really good to start mixing in, especially if you have a picky family that really is used to eating a lot of meat and not a lot of whole grains, fruits, and veggies. Start mixing them into your everyday recipes, like sloppy joe, like spaghetti, like meatloaf, anything like that. You can hide grains, you can hide veggies, throw them in there. Half the time they won't even know.
Easy to add grains to things like ground beef or ground chicken. It's really easy. Kids don't really notice. It's also easy to add it into rice dishes and things that they're used to eating that they like, and just slowly integrate these things into your family's meals. It might not be all of spelt or all of bulgur right away. It's okay to mix it with a white rice that your kids are used to eating, or even you're used to eating. Those things take time to transition what your tastes are, what they like. So especially kids are really, really picky sometimes about taste and flavor. And a lot of times they're tasting things way more potent than we are because their taste buds are really active still. So really slowly step those things into your kids' meals. Don't just give up if they don't like it right away.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to make a breakfast cereal first that has raspberries in it. So here we go.
So we have the 288 grams of cooked spelt, and remember, breakfast cereal does not have to always be oatmeal. You can use any grain to make a breakfast cereal, and it tastes delicious. So we're going to use 200 grams of raspberries. I used frozen just because that's what I had on hand. You could definitely use fresh, whatever you like.
Did you thaw those first?
No, put them in frozen. This is 60 grams of regular cream cheese. You could also use tofutti, which is dairy-free cream cheese, if you want to make this dairy-free or vegan. This is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a pinch of nutmeg, so that just goes in. And then, a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste also was in there. We just put that in. And then
So vanilla bean paste is similar to a vanilla extract, but it's much thicker. So make sure when you're using it that you use it sparingly, and then you can kind of add more to taste, but initially it's a much stronger flavor.
Yes. And then I'm going to use about probably about 75 milliliters of almond milk because we want it to be nice and thick and creamy because we're raspberries and cream. So all you do is put all that in, you give it a little stir.
And this is going to end up being a dairy-free recipe, but like what if you use the tofuti, you can use dairy-free, and then almond milk. That would be a totally dairy-free recipe for anyone that tries to stay away from dairy or has to stay away from dairy. But you can use just regular milk, whole milk, Fairlife milk, whatever dairy or dairy substitute will work in this recipe.
Yep. Also, you can certainly add honey or agave or any sweetener that you would like. I did not, only because I thought it was sweet enough on its own with the raspberries and the vanilla bean paste, but it's totally up to you if you don't think it's sweet enough. You could certainly add honey and agave. You could do it now, or you could do it just as you eat it in the morning. If you think it needs a little bit more sweet, you can put that on in the morning. Totally up to you. Side note, my blueberry syrup that I made and posted a couple weeks ago was amazing on this, so just FYI.
And for kids that right away are used to a little more sweetness, another kind of trick to get them to try things is a few mini chocolate chips on it. Really cuts into any of the bitiness of the spelt.
Mm-hmm. So again, you're just going to close the lid after you put all your ingredients in. Make sure the seal is on to sealed. You're going to plug it back in. And then for this one, mine just turns on right away, and I just push the manual button. And I push it to the low setting, like we were talking about earlier. And then this just needs 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes on the manual and low, just to make sure everything is coming together and cooking nicely. And then that's it. You can release it quickly this time if you like, because everything's already cooked. Take it out. You're ready to go.
Awesome. If you have this all in there, how do you reheat it if you have leftovers for this?
I just put it in the microwave. So what I do is after I cook the breakfast cereal and I eat it for the day, if I have leftovers, I stick it in the fridge, and then I just take it out, put it in the microwave.
Perfect. So this is a really great recipe to make more than you think you're going to eat of, and then put it in little mason jars and have it already portioned out and in your fridge. This is a great go-to to right before you work out that can already be done and in your fridge and ready to go. I know a lot of times we work out early in the morning, we don't have time to prepare anything.
Yep.
This is an awesome one to have ready. It takes just a few seconds in the microwave and you can eat it on the go, but it has everything you need to get you going in the morning.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So what's the other thing we can do with spelt? Like that was a sweet breakfast.
Okay.
Now we're going to go into something that you could use it for later in the day or a savory option.
So again, easy to put it into different meals like spaghetti sauce, Sloppy Joes, tacos even would be great. You could make a spelt salad, a cold salad, just like the wheatberry salad we posted a little while ago, where it's just veggies and spelt with a nice vinaigrette dressing. Then you would marinate it in the fridge and take it out. You could add it to your oatmeal. You could add it to pretty much anything. It's really...
You can
do
anything.
anything with it. And I would say experiment.
Yeah.
I would say experiment. That's how you find out what you're going to like, what your family's going to like.
Right.
And you start incorporating these whole grains and different vegetables into their diet, and you're going to see how much more adaptable their palate becomes.
For sure. Okay, so when you're doing these and you're batch cooking, don't be scared to try, like she said, different things with it. When you batch cook a lot of something, people sometimes get overwhelmed because they think I have so much of it, now I don't really like it. That's when you've got to be a little bit creative. You've got to think outside the box, start adding it in, or add smaller amounts of it. But don't be scared of batch cooking a lot of something, even if you're not sure of it yet.
Yep.
So there you have it. So that's for spelt. Try it. We'd love to hear how you liked it, and we will post the recipe below. So have a great day, and go make this day a great one for a victory.